It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Purdue's volleyball supervisor of operations, Carrie Gurnell. How are you doing today?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to start working in college athletics?
So obviously I played volleyball in high school and into college, and then I was actually playing professionally for a few years. I was like, all right, I'm done with volleyball. I've put a lot of time and a lot of years into the sport, and I was like, I want to try to do something different. And I lasted maybe 6 or 7 months, and I was like, I just love volleyball. I mean, that's been such a huge part of my life, and you know, I always thought I wanted to go try something different, but the day-to-day life, like this routine, I've never really had such a steady routine. It wasn't something I was used to ever since I really left college. So it felt great to kind of be in this role, being in college sports where you kind of have those waves where you're in season and you're out of season, then you're in camp season, you're recruiting season. And I liked how it kind of mixes up every couple of months. And it's been really great to make that decision to get into college athletics.
What was it like, obviously, playing for Purdue for volleyball?
It was an amazing experience. I wouldn't change that for the world. I'm from Houston, Texas, Katy specifically. And so my family is from the Midwest. And so Purdue was always like, it was kind of like the Ivy League of the Midwest is kind of how we felt. And so when I got that letter in the mail and they're like, we want you to come, we're interested in you. And then as we talked more, they wanted me to come here. I was like, I hands down that was my number one choice. And people were like, that's kind of random, you're from Texas going to Purdue. But I always loved Purdue basketball, especially the women's side. They were just amazing at the time. And so Purdue was always in the back of my head. Playing for Purdue was great. Dave, Kat, John, my coaches here were great. We had everything we could ever ask for. We had a successful program. I kind of say, as a coach, it's been really hard to relate sometimes to players because I had such an amazing volleyball career and a great experience. So I felt like I didn't have to go through a lot of the trials and tribulations they have to go through now, to be honest.
What was it like, obviously, getting to put on that Purdue volleyball jersey?
It was great. I feel so much pride for the school, and just growing up loving Purdue and to be able to put that on and say I'm a Purdue athlete was just like amazing. I'm just really proud to be a Purdue athlete. And now even just working at Purdue has been like, it's still hard to wrap my head around that I get to actually work at the school I love so much.
Of course, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player at Purdue?
Looking back, it's so hard to answer that question because I think, as a coach, right, we talk with our players about like, I don't think I remember, oh, I got this many kills or I played this amount of time. I think the biggest it comes kind of like a roundabout answer, but lessons away from the sport. And I think my biggest accomplishment was just being present there with my teammates and doing the best I could every day. And I think I look at it now as such a big picture versus all the little details. But I think the biggest thing I could have done was just made the most of my opportunity. And I hopefully I accomplished that.
What was it like, obviously, leaving Purdue to go play professionally?
That was a unique experience. The cool thing about playing at Purdue is we actually got to do an overseas trip while I was there. We hit up a couple different countries over the span of, I believe, 12 days. So that was really hard because, you're going from one culture to the next within a span of a day or two. So it just kind of hits you. Like the second you get accommodated to that culture, you're somewhere else, right? So I didn't know how I was going to feel playing overseas. It was a very unique experience because I actually was injured on that trip. So the people that actually took us on the trip were also kind of connected into how I started playing there. So I just kind of went on like what you would consider just like a combine, and I was there for like a day. I was in Maribor, Slovenia. I was there for like a day, and then some lady picked me up and took me all the way over to Innsbruck, Austria. And I woke up in a totally different spot the next morning. I had no idea what to expect, and absolutely love my coaches and my team so much. And I love the city of Innsbruck, probably one of my favorite cities in the world. And I ended up playing that same spot for 3 years.
Of course, after your professional playing career, what was it like getting into college coaching and getting your first job at Dayton?
So my first job actually was at Gardner Webb in North Carolina. So that was unique because I'd never been on that part of the country. It was so strange because I'm kind of can be impulsive. So I was like, this is what I want to do. So I just kind of reached out to a few coaches, and Leo Sales at Gardner Webb got back to me fairly shortly. And so we were on a call within the next week or so. And he's been somebody I've idolized for a long time. He's just a great human being and a great person. And to go there and be able to he gave me a lot of responsibilities. He gave me kind of a long leash of giving me chances to try different things and see what I was good at, and kind of guided me through that first step of my process. And be able to get a Division I coaching job, my first go was, I thought, really cool. And I'll never forget that team too. I think we cried laughing probably every day. It was a very unique and interesting crew. So I loved it.
What was it like, obviously, as you said, getting your first opportunity at Gardner Webb as the assistant coach?
It was very eye-opening because I think as a player, someone I've played for so long, but coaching is a totally different career, right? A volleyball playing career and a coaching career is very different. So you learn a lot of respect for your coaches when I look back and see all the tiny things that they do, all the decisions that they have to make. And I think, learning the ins and outs of what coaching actually looks like, not only from the coaching side, but, at schools like Gardner Webb, they don't have my position at Gardner Webb, a supervisor of operations. So I was having to help, had our hands in travel. We had our hands in our own travel when it comes to recruiting. We had our hands in the budget. So I had to learn a lot really quickly.
What were some of your roles as the recruitment coordinator at Gardner Webb?
So it's fairly similar to a lot of recruiting coordinators, except for, like I said, we didn't have an ops person. So I did have to do a lot of the logistical things as well. So just talking with kids, going out and going to a lot of different cities to go watch kids play, kind of trying to develop what do I want my system to actually look like as a recruiter, learning about our school, about what's really important and different and unique about our school that would make a kid want to go there. I think knowing all of that's really, really important. And then just having a good eye for a kid that we would think is a good fit for us as well, right? We were a Baptist school at Gardner Webb, so we wanted to make sure that was somebody that we had a kid that was really into kind of what we were looking into too.
How was it like, obviously, leaving Gardner Webb to go to Dayton?
So I went Gardner Webb to the University of North Texas, and then then came here afterwards. And I think for me, the coolest thing about being in North Texas is that I actually have family in Houston. So it was really nice to actually have people be able to come up and watch my games and watch us coach and see my team play. And my sister has 2 kids. So being able to see them grow, it was a little bit hard, being in North Carolina, to be able to go home for a weekend, right? So I think the biggest difference was, a little bit of a bigger school. We were in hotbed of recruiting in the Dallas area. The kids that come out of there, it's just ridiculous. It's a super competitive city, a lot of universities in the state, a lot of universities in the area. So I think that the competition was really fierce. And I think that being a lot closer to home was also really great too.
What was it like, obviously, being the associate head coach for volleyball for North Texas?
That was a great experience. I learned a lot there as well. Being able to have a little bit more hands in the decision making of certain things and have a bigger voice and a role there. Running camps and being able to run camps on my own. And I just thought that was a great experience, great learning experience, and being able to have that title and that recognition. And I really felt honored to have that role.
What was it like, obviously, when you were at North Texas, being at the top of the top in the conferences?
It was great, but there was a certain amount of pressure because, that conference is really close. The middle of the pack, anyone could beat anybody. It's very similar to the Big Ten, right? Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. And I think that, having that title or having that target on your back is a great feeling, but also there's a little bit of pressure there to make sure that you're successful. And I think that, it's a good thing, always trying to, it puts a lot of pressure in a lot of areas, right? Making sure we keep recruiting high level kids, making sure that our training is always up to date, and finding new ways to help make our kids better. I thought the cool thing that we did at North Texas is that, volleyball is volleyball, right? Everyone's doing something similar, right? But finding new ways to make it fresh and exciting and innovative for the players. So even though we're going through some of the same routines, like we try to mix it up. We're still doing hitting lines, but we're going to have a different focus or a different idea or a different theme during that day. And I think that helped a lot.
What was the transition like from you from going from being an associate head coach at North Texas to when you got to Purdue being a supervisor of operations?
So that to me was the biggest transition, right? Because I obviously can't coach now. So I still get to have volleyball conversations, which is great with the coaches. So they've really let me continue to be involved in those discussions. But I would say the biggest thing that I've noticed is that, so when I was at Gardner-Webb in North Texas, I had a coaching title, but I also was doing the travel, like I was saying, some of the logistics. And here I really get to sit down and really focus on those things. And I knew they were really important, but I didn't realize how important they were until I really got into this role. I think the biggest transition that I had, especially coming from, the mid-major to the Big Ten, is that we have a lot of resources, which is amazing, but it also adds a little bit of additional work, right? So a lot of coordinating, a lot of communicating, a lot of making sure the timing's right, making sure that we're supposed to be where we're supposed to be and how we want that to look and what kind of feel do we want. I want to make sure that I have everything taken care of, because my number one goal, my own personal goal, and hopefully it's everyone's goal, is like, I don't want any of the coaches to be stressed, right? I want them to feel like the last thing they're worried about is where we're supposed to be, when we're supposed to be there. Do we have what we need? Is everybody on the same page? And I hopefully can help make sure that at least that part is ironed out. So it's a little bit of a mind shift, because usually before the game day, I'm thinking like strictly volleyball. And then for my role now, it's like, how can we make things transition as smoothly as possible? So all that everyone has to worry about is the volleyball side. And I think being a coach has really helped me understand what their side feels like a lot. So I think for me, like, I really want to make sure that I can achieve those things to make everything as easy for everyone else as possible.
Of course, what was it like coming back home to your alma mater of Purdue to obviously join the coaching staff?
Very strange, to be honest. I felt like because ever since the pandemic hit, I haven't really been back to Purdue. I used to come back to camps every year, but I'd maybe come back for 3 or 4 days a year. And to say that, oh my gosh, like, I live here, I'm going to the same grocery store I used to go to, like, gosh, however many years ago was that? Like over 10 years ago. But the campus has changed so much, and it's totally different when you're living on campus versus off campus. I have like my house, I could go to different places. So I'm not like rolling around here like I'm a student anymore, but I can still go to my favorite coffee shop, which is great. So I get that question a lot. I think it's been very strange, because it's weird, but it isn't weird anymore. I don't know how I feel about it, but a lot of the campus has changed. And I think that's always a good thing, right? Showing a lot of growth, and always the construction over the summer, making sure that things are beautiful for the next year. But I think we're an ever-changing, ever-growing campus, which is really great.
Of course, what has it been like, obviously, to help those young Purdue athletes that are coming into volleyball and giving them the experience that you had when you were at Purdue as a volleyball player?
I think it's been great having, number one, the first thing I'm going to say is it's really great that I think that alumni feel comfortable to come back here. I'm not the first alumni that's been in this role. So I think that that speaks a lot for our coaching staff, that I was excited to come back, and I knowing that I was going to be around people that I loved and people that cared for me, I thought was really huge. And I hopefully the girls can see that too, that, this isn't just a place you leave. It's a place you always want to come back to and feel like you come back home when you come back here. And I think the biggest thing that I hopefully can offer to these kids is just like sharing my experience. Also kind of letting them know where we came from, because it did not look like this when I was here. Their locker room was amazing. They have a lot more than we did. Obviously they did the best they could when I was playing, but I think just helping with a little bit of the mindset that they should have, and just kind of helping a little bit with some things outside of the sport. Their daily tasks are, they're pretty booked. And I think just helping them think through like what my priorities should be and where does volleyball fit into that. And, they also want to do a great job of trying to give back. And that's something that we've always been really good at as a program. And so they've helping kind of shape what we want that to look like as well. Navigating through NIL is a whole different, or NIL is totally different. But just hopefully giving them some advice and letting them know kind of where we came from and where we are and what our expectations are has been hopefully helpful.
On game day, what is it like for you to obviously step back onto the court, but on the sidelines?
It's so like the nostalgia is out of the gym, right? It's just so cool to hear the same songs that they've been playing for the past 10, 15 years, and seeing the packed gym and seeing them out on the court and the jerseys is just like amazing. That was the biggest thing that really helped solidify my choice to come back here. Was it's like, wait, I get to like sit on the sideline of like my favorite team. Like, what more is there to think about, right? The excitement and just the belief, and like, oh, when we came back in some of those matches this year, I was like, someone might know we wasn't sure if we could make it happen, but I really hoped and believed that we could, and we did. And I just think it has been a phenomenal year, and it's been really great to be on the sidelines and hearing the conversations that the coaches have, the decisions that they make, how they communicate with the girls. Like, it's been great to see not only some of the things, to see, how similar things are, but really to see how the coaches have grown and developed, and how they've really changed with the times. And it's cool to see that there's also been a lot of growth and change too. So it's been cool.
Of course, how has it been like obviously going back and playing, seeing those games that obviously these players are playing against the same teams that you played when you were in college?
It's cool. It's also the nostalgia, right? I think that, these teams, there's a few new teams that are here that we haven't played, but I think that I still have that competitive moment where it's like, okay, well, we obviously have to beat Indiana. And then there's some teams that we always struggled with when I was playing. When we went and beat Minnesota and Wisconsin at Minnesota and Wisconsin this year, we never did that. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And so for my own heart, my own competitive being, right, I was just like on cloud nine after that. That was really cool to see. And to be there when that happened, it was cool.
What are some of your roles and responsibilities on game day?
On game day, hopefully I don't have any, because my job is to make sure everything is done before that point, right? So my actual game day experience my goal is to make that as relaxed and as easy as possible. So everything's already taken care of. My goal is just to make sure everyone's on the pass list that needs to be on the pass list, making sure that, we're on time with where we got to be, but usually we get a really good routine. So I don't really have to worry about that. And then I actually keep a few stats on the sidelines just to help out, fill in any gaps that we have, that any additional information that we may need. But my game day goal is just to be as calm and smooth as possible, which hopefully I achieved that this past year.
How's it like obviously coordinating with the schedules and getting to make that decision and calling the teams to find out if they can play you?
So that is, I think, one of the toughest things, is putting together our preseason schedule and then trying to get everything all locked down. So we still don't have our Big Ten schedule yet. As you can see, there's nothing new on the website now, because we have to put so much effort and work to work around either basketball or TV times. Our goal is to make sure that we're we are seen on TV as much as possible. We really want to help grow the sport. So trying to coordinate all those little details of who we're going to play, when we're going to play, how we're going to play, how do we want to coordinate travel around that? I think that's probably one of the toughest parts of the job, especially nowadays when COVID has made things a little bit more limited when it comes to flight times and bus opportunities because the busing staff's really low. But I think, yeah, coordinating with other teams, figuring out when and how and where we're going to play and everything like that is pretty tough.
What is it like, obviously, seeing those prospective student athletes come in to Purdue and fall in love and become future Purdue volleyball players, just how you did?
That's like my favorite part. I've always enjoyed hosting recruits when I was in college, and I would just like, there's my favorite place on campus. This is my favorite place to eat. I'm gonna show you everywhere. And that I just really love seeing kids come here and their parents. It's like, we see this place every day now, right? But for them to be like, wow, it's almost like I'm seeing it for the first time too. And I love to see that in them, and knowing how much I loved it when I first came here. It's just really cool to feel like you're reliving that. And to be able to hear them have really nice conversations with the coaches and the girls and the other staff around us. And I mean, there's people that have been here for 20 something years that come back to, it's like, yeah, good old Marty's been here forever. And so when to see them be brand new and then not understanding how much of like a big part of their rest of their lives this is going to be, is just so interesting. And then we just have really great facilities, which I think helps a lot too. So there's always that pizzazz factor. And then the fun part about my job is hopefully we can start updating some things and figuring out how we want to make that look. But yeah, I really enjoy bringing kids in and seeing how excited they are about the school and what we can offer and meeting the girls. And it's one of my favorite parts of the job for sure.
What is that feeling like for you, obviously seeing them fall in love and get to put on that same jersey that you got to put on?
I think I think the cool thing about that is I can really relate. And I think that what I still see in our players, and something that I strongly felt, was just putting on that jersey and just having so much love and pride for the school. And I think that's like the coolest thing to see how, the culture has sustained itself throughout and the past 20 years since the coaches have been here. I think as a coach, I go to a lot of different kinds of like mentorship programs and different courses we take. And the biggest question that I always hear is like, how do you either build a culture or maintain one? And that's something that I think what our coaches have done an amazing job of. And so I think when you see that kid put on that jersey, that's the right kid, that's the right fit. And that they know what Purdue's about and they're going to represent as well.
What has it been like, obviously, to be involved in the culture as a staff member from your time as a player?
So how has it been being a staff member now and being involved in the culture side of things? Mm-hmm. It has been probably my second favorite part of the job, right? To see, it's one thing to be on the team and just kind of know what that culture feels like, but then to sit in the actual office and have these meetings and hear about how we continue to maintain that culture has been so cool. I think as a player, there's, 18 kids on the team. You find a way to spread the love and you have your conversations with the coaches. But when I'm working with them day in and day out to really hear what's on their mind and how they feel about certain things, it's been absolutely inspiring. I think that I learn a lot about how the weight of each decision affects the team, how we want the team to feel. And that's something they're really intentional about. And I think that some people need to spend a lot more time on those things. And we feel like we're good at the volleyball stuff, but to make sure everyone feels great and loves their experience and just feels good about what they're doing is really, really important to us.
What are some of your future plans as the supervisor of volleyball operations for Purdue?
That's something I've been thinking about a lot lately. I'm still trying to transition in this role, and I still haven't had a full year under my belt. Don't even get me started about camps. Haven't had to coordinate. I've been coordinating that, but to actually run them when they get here, we have huge camps. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think that some of my future plans is just to really get good at my day-to-day stuff that I need to do, and then really find ways to be more creative. Especially, I get the cool thing that I really like is that I get to work with like social media, for example, with our SID. And so we try to think of like funny ideas or good things we can put out there. I wish I had more time to think about those things. Or, I hear Dave kind of throw out ideas every once in a while. And I'm like, I need to be thinking more like that, right? Like, not just are these daily tasks handled, but I really want to start to find a way to not just do my job, but to really grow and start thinking more creatively and outside of the box in this role. That's my goal.
What's that going to be like, obviously, to be involved in running those camps, as you said?
I have no idea. It's going to be crazy. So we're probably going to have around 1,000 kids come in and out of these doors this summer. And so making sure everyone's in the right spot at the right time is going to be interesting. But we have a lot of different courts and different parts, different facilities. So coordinating all of that. I've worked camps a lot as a player, and then also just coming back to help out. So I know what it looks like, at least, which is going to be really helpful. But then I also know how big these camps are. I feel great right now, but I guess we'll know at the end of the summer how it turns out.
What is something that you learn now that you didn't know before becoming a supervisor of volleyball operations?
I think the biggest thing that I've learned now is that, having a lot of resources is really great, but then also it adds, so I'm not just talking like money, for example. I'm talking just like we have people, if we need help with something, we have somebody way better that can do it, execute it than me, right? When I was a coach at different universities, maybe we had to finagle making our own brochures or putting together our own graphics for stuff on social media, which I can do, but it might not be great. So just having to coordinate with a lot of different people that are really competent and really great at their jobs to make sure that our program's as best as it can be. Like, I never knew how many people it took to make sure our program was great. And I mean, there's a lot of people that work really hard to make sure that everything's, going in the right direction. That goes from top to bottom, right? From all the way from the AD down to people like me that are doing the daily tasks. So I knew there was a lot of people, but I had no idea. So that's been a new experience.
What advice would you give those high school athletes looking to become college volleyball players?
I think the biggest advice I can give high school athletes is just to, number one, be you, and then be vocal. I think that showing your personality is huge. I know that that's a huge recruitable thing. There's a lot of coaches that will look at you on the court and you're just as good as everyone else, but are you talking? Do you have personality? How do you interact with your coaches? How do you interact with your parents, right? Or your siblings, I think just being an individual and showing your personality and making it look like you're having fun on the court, regardless of how you're playing, I think is super crucial. And I think that's all you really can do is be you. How are you going to be anybody else? But just work really hard, show that you're working hard, and then just like show your personality. I always think that's great. Like, wow, she's really fun to watch. Oh, and she's kind of funny too. And you can pick those things up, so just be you.
What advice would you give those college volleyball players looking to come back to their alma mater like you did?
To work, I would say if you had a good experience, I think it's a great place to be. I think they got a lot of experience for how things work. And then I've had a great experience coming back to my alma mater. So I would highly suggest someone else to do it the same.
What advice would you give people looking to work inside college athletics, whether it's the supervisor role, just as you, or something different in college athletics?
I think the most important thing is understanding that everyone that is around you are people, from down to your players, to your athletic staff, to your training staff, to your strength and conditioning staff, to the people that execute different things that you need to get done, whether it be your event staff, your social media, your SID person, there's so many people that, like I was saying, that have a hand in making your program successful, and just understanding that these are people as well, right? I know you want to be the best you can be in whatever role that you're in, but the people around you are people. One of the greatest pieces of advice that I was given over the convention this year was like, I think it's really great to thank people and recognize them for all the work that they do for you. And sometimes you just expect things to get done because that's how it's supposed to be. But regardless if it's the same thing every year, there's someone out there doing the work and making sure it happens for you. So being grateful and realizing that people are people around you and giving them a break, or I think that's really, really important. And I think that that's something we do really great here is like we have a really good culture, not just from our playing and our coaches, but everyone I work with, I truly think is amazing. And I'm really grateful for everything that they do.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media along with Purdue volleyball program at?
So we have all of our tags. So we're on everywhere for Purdue volleyball. So you can just Google like at Purdue VB. And then I'm Carrie CCG, I believe pretty much everywhere. I'm not sure. But we're pretty easy to find. We have a great social media following and they're pretty fun about getting cool things out there.
Thank you again, Carrie Gurnell, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Purdue as the supervisor of volleyball operations.
Thank you so much, Brandon, for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. And it was great. You had great questions, and I really enjoyed chatting with you today.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. And you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Carrie Gurnell, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you so much.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.